sort of uniquely positioned to build a very strong health informatics program. There are not, and among those are the fact that we've got all the schools in basically in the health professions, public health. We've got a major hospital. We've got one of the best health sciences libraries. We have the other resources of the university, and we have them all located in near proximity, which is, you know, if you know how most health fairs, campuses and such are organized, that's not a very common occurrence. Sometimes you have, you know, the first 2 years over here and the next 2 years over there, or people go off to the med school in the city, but the university that they're associated with is located someplace else. So we've got a lot of potential synergy here that I think puts us in a good position to build this this program. We also have AHEC, the AHEC program, which gives us statewide reach, and we've got the Research Triangle and the Research Triangle Institute, and you know, people are already working with them. We have probably the leading school of information and library science in the country right here. So, you know, where else do you have all of these ingredients? I think that makes a very strong argument for us to be in a position to carve out this area for the future. Over here, Vanna is putting up a number of terms that she heard that thinks might indicate some natural affinities between the library and those of you who spoke. And by the way, before I forget, let me thank each of you very much for taking the time to do this. It really means a lot, and I know you're very busy and maybe you're moving or have other things going on at this time of the year, but I'm really grateful for you to take this time to come and talk to folks here, because a lot of people have been wondering, I think, in the library, you know, why are we willing to give up space that could be used by students for studying to somebody else? Well, my idea is that it isn't somebody else. You know, it should be us. That we should be a part of that, and not just by giving space up. We should be a part of it by working together. We can be a site for practica for students. We can be obviously we are now a site where students come to work together. We can be a site where faculty who are located in the schools around us can come and work, and they can work with us. So there are a lot of things going for us in this whole environment that we're just, you know, trying to pull all together now, and this is the right time to do it. As the certificate program is well established, the master's program is taking off, the PhD program is under development. You know, we got all the pieces, all the pieces here. And I want to be a part of it. And as I said earlier too, you know, I'm looking for a good future for us as librarians. Something that can challenge us in the years ahead to play a vital role in our academic and clinical and environment of the people of the state. Not that what we don't do isn't great, and isn't wonderful, and isn't essential. It is, but I think there are other roles that we want to get in on. So, what are some of these things that you heard?
Well,
Steve?
I just wanted to say that also my thanks to all the presenters, because I felt like you did a great job in giving some of us who aren't familiar with it, a really good basic understanding of the variety of topics that might be included and the type of activities, so thank you again. What I wrote down was I heard some things more than once across different presenters that I thought were the areas where the library could really collaborate effectively, continue. So what I've got is research mission, right off, the bat, maybe connected with the PhD. The analysis of data, especially the difference between the structured and the unstructured data, but what I heard was the unstructured data was maybe a particular role for us. Student projects. Then a number of different topics where we are actively doing things that might connect up with what you're interested in. The consumer health information, of course, was mentioned, but also the mobile devices, the natural language processing and text mining piece, and then managing, curating information. And there were more that I heard, of course, and that's part of what we might want to talk about. What other ideas connected to these or other things came to mind.
Well, a couple thoughts, just coming from a fundraiser's perspective, is that, you've got Samsung and Google, as potential partners, given that, Samsung, as I understand it, is used more broadly around the world, even though the iPhone here is more popular. And then also with the health, population health, there may be some possible partnerships, funding from the Gates Foundation, since that's an up-and-coming thing. And the other one I'm thinking about is the founder of MD, online medical advice, Mickey Singer. He may be back in this type of business since he invented that or created that service and became a very wealthy man. So he's also philanthropic. So I wanted to throw those three ideas out there.
What was that last one again?
The founder of MD, online MD. He's philanthropic and obviously into the big data. And his name's Mickey Singer. And I think he's pretty accessible. He's in Florida now and has a spiritual community, but is philanthropic and appreciates big data. By the way, I was wondering if you knew Dr. Ben Cantor or Orlando Hotel. I was just coming from Palomar Health in San Diego area, and they invented this MIA, medical information anytime, anywhere for the smartphone, and Airstrip bought their, technology or their IP. Just curious.
It's kind of hard to call what Jim was saying. I think you guys are centrally located, especially with respect to all the health stuff going on. I always tell a story when I was in radiology before I went to SILS, and we had a project with the surgeons, and it was very productive because the surgeons had to walk by our spot in radiology on the way to their surgery school. It was very productive while we were there. And we got new gigs that were nicer, but they were farther away. Never saw the surgeons again. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful spot. Libraries are changing, right? So part of this is figuring out where we're going. Informatics is big, and just personally guarantee this is a big growing area, and we want to be part of it. I think the thing to think about is these topics, and for you guys to be asking questions, how can I play in this space? What do I need to know? Who should I be talking to on campus? And get them into this space, this shared space, and engage them, because you've got this great potential. If you don't take advantage of it, you're going to have the Googles and their companies kind of pushing by and moving libraries behind. This is happening in other areas, right? You've got a lot to offer. We don't want that to happen. So ask questions. What kind of things, what do you want to know? What kind of projects are you thinking about that you might engage faculty on campus or students on campus?
Something that I was thinking about that you mentioned had to do with mHealth, and I went to that mHealth at Duke conference the last 2 years, and they were talking there about the effectiveness of text messaging versus websites, for instance, and interacting with patients. Are you doing any work to compare those methodologies for
So we're
keeping up with
potentially
patients?
collaborate. Robert Furberg at RTI is big on
Right.
that. So they've done several, at least 2 studies that they've done, some clinical, some evaluation. There's several people looking at that. The short answer is it's definitely better for some kinds of things, the text messaging. Because people have phones, because it's a constant, easy reminder to give like positive encouragement. Did you take your medications today? Did you eat well or stuff like that? But they're different kinds of things than what websites are better at. So it's kind of some things are better for some things, some things are better for other things. So chronic conditions, want a reminder, want someone to be positive strokes, pat on the back. So the text messages are actually good. He tells a story, so people get attached to these personalities and build them, and they think someone's actually texting. He built this, the robot thing that just sends text messages, and people personified it. They thought this person was like, turning them and asking them questions and things like that. So we're not far from it. You may have seen the news, the Turing test was just accomplished, which is you have a conversation with your computer, and over 30% of people think it's a real person. That's kind of a Turing test. It's just, can computers be AI? That's a whole other discussion whether it's a real good challenge or not. But the first time somebody actually beat that, so you can imagine computers that have a conversation with you, give you that emotional support, which people want, right? And to make them feel good, to do the things we want them to do, positive encouragement. But it might be a machine behind the scenes, it might not be a person doing it. So I think mHealth is definitely big. They're more leaders at that, so we've done some discussions with them. We had some grants that we're looking at putting in, but I'm not actually doing that right now. Most of that work's been done at RTI. There's a big collection of people doing that at RTI. My former student, one of RTI, who was the young cancer adult survivor, she's at RTI in DC working on a couple of these projects as well.
And there are others here at UNC doing mobile health. In the med school, there's Dr. Arlene Chun, who I think got a research assistant here in the informatics space.
Yeah, Kelly Walters worked with her this summer.
Yeah, and then Deborah Mayer, who's School of Nursing in Lineberger, she's doing some work with cancer survivors and mental health. And Karen, don't you work in mobile health? Haven't you done mobile apps before?
I was big on them when they were PDAs.
Okay. She set the trend.
So things have changed.
Well, actually, it's deja vu.
Yes, I can try to give you contact information. I know.
Deborah Tate is another one who is working, I think, in public health.
Yeah, there are a lot of people.
It's growing.
Obesity and
Interested if not.
But I have a little concern about it simply because we think that we are the only people who want to put something on somebody's cell phone. And the commercial people out there are just as anxious to get them interested in what they have to offer. And so we're up against the same problem with when you have websites and you want to steer people to the good ones, how do you make sure that they don't get bad information or the commercials version instead?
So who do you go ask when you want to know where a good source of information?
The Medical Library Association.
Ask my librarian, what's a good curated source, right? You would say, hey, go look at this thing put out by the government, the FDA, the RTI, in collaboration with some of these partisan grant work, not MD Online, who the profit company is.
Well, the problem is they don't think about the library as where to get that information.
but that's partly our problem, isn't it?
I think so.
Not just their problem, but they don't think about it. If they aren't thinking about us, why aren't they thinking about us? Now, I don't have the answer to that exactly, but if they don't think about us as partners, we don't think about, we can't figure out what we've got to do with medical informatics. I mean, we're not gonna get anywhere. I heard an awful lot of things that sounded like knowledge management roles. Taking data, unorganized, categorized, difficult to access, difficult to discover, difficult to use. I mean, in the Carolina Data Warehouse,
Yeah.
for instance. Um, My understanding is it takes pretty much an expert to use it, and it kind of reminds me of where we were, you know, when I first became a medical librarian, when you had to have a librarian do a search for you because you couldn't find anything in that line on your own.
I mean, very probably, because we had this discussion maybe, what, 10, 15 years ago, you should have an informatician or informationist, however we can pick that term. So the Tracks Institute's doing some of that now. But you need to have somebody that's an expert in these things like databases or information representation and how to get this stuff out. It used to be you had statistical consulting. The Statistics Consulting Center was the thing we had before Tracks kind of took over that funding, expanded it. Right? But so now you might have an information person helping guide them. How do I do this children's pharmacy repository? How do I get the message out on the web, which is a mobile phone? Well, that's an important part of the question. Is this a statistical consultant? Is this the design of the trial and all those things? So you need multiple experts helping you. And so the library should be playing part of that or in conjunction with like the Tracks Institute, things like that.
We have some ties to the library, that's my understanding.
Mhm.
My fellow master students, I think, I can't remember her name, was a liaison between the two, between Tracks and the libraries. The other thing, that you're talking about, that we're going through a bit of an upheaval now. We're changing from an old data warehouse to a new one. Once we get our feet grounded under us again, would need to get somebody's kind of help to look through the documentation and maybe be able to serve as a liaison to, hey, if you're looking for this information in this dedicated resource, here's what's available, here's what we have.
Could I add a few things? Do we have till the end of the hour at our timeline?
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing I'd like to have is, as a practical, sort of a step forward action item maybe, Jim, is if there are opportunities, I know it's so expensive, so difficult to get so many people together, but I really appreciate more opportunities for interaction with the colleagues here and probably elsewhere on campus who are involved in the information and library field. When I was in IU, I remember there used to be a weekly seminar. It doesn't have to be weekly. If it's like even a monthly, where we could share ideas like we're doing today, where we could bring people from informatics and all the sister schools that are involved, because I think there's a lot of knowledge in this room about knowledge. And I think our field, we underestimate where we are. I think we are probably in an enviable position of organizing knowledge for the world. And we have a lot of implicit learning and experience that we don't necessarily get to express all the time. But we know a lot about how to make information available and organize information and be able to provide that intermediary service, which is going to be, in my view, being in the field for 20 plus years now, in the LIS field, I would say, is going to be increasingly even more important. And despite the Turing test, I would argue we're probably not going to, how many Turing tests you can pass, we are never going to take the human out of the loop. We will not. They will just have different roles. We'll call them different things. And I think there are lots of interesting challenges for us to share with the librarian community here. And being able to exchange ideas and have opportunities like this. I mean, if there is something you can do to help kind of even start a discussion where we could come together on a monthly basis or even a quarterly basis, but as long as it's a regular and it's kind of publicized and people know that there's an opportunity to not just present talks, but also have like a half hour or an hour left over or 45 minutes to have a dialogue, I think it would go a long way to really engage people, because the terrains are complicated. I would leave you with 3 areas I was thinking about. And I want to step back from for lack of a better way of saying it, we shouldn't be whining. We should be celebrating. We should be really saying that we're going to rule the world. We organize knowledge, and we are in the knowledge age. Seriously. And so research, engagement, education. And what I would say is there are, under research, where we could engage, there are practical areas that are considered hot topics in health informatics, called one area, you can do Google search on it, called clinical research informatics. Right? And Ohio State just got an NLM grant for training clinical research informatician. There are new roles being created as for people who take on that role of a clinical research informatician. It's basically you take Ashraf and take it up a few notches. And what is their role? Their role is to be that intermediary, not just to the traditional library resources, a la books or journals, but to data. Okay. And I think one way to think about expanding the vision is, where is the boundary of the collection? And I think there could be so many interesting discussions. And I know in your daily practices you are dealing with that issue.
We're doing so much more outreach than we ever did before.
Yeah.
We have been able to, through our liaisons, where we spend a lot of our time in the user groups that we serve,
Yeah.
where we are immersed in their language, their process.
Yes.
And we bring what we already know from our training and our knowledge management experiences.
Right.
And we serve as a bridge.
Yeah, of
We
course.
bring that world into theirs, and by the more we're exposed to that world, the more opportunities we have to improve it,
Right.
change it.
Right.
So I think that's exactly where we need to be.
I think
The bridge.
the understanding the research process and its evolving nature, and where information professionals can fit in that research landscape, is a rich area for discussion and dialogue and doing work together. There is funding for that sort of stuff. Engagement. Let me just quickly say a couple of things. Engagement and education, where I think Chip can work with you. So with engagement, the idea is to form teams to do projects together, where you have your roles of doing work for the library, but you also have a role as a scholar partner, a researcher partner. Every one of you, I think, can provide very important guidance as we engage in projects on this campus, be it traditional research project, or it could be even development project, where we are translating research into some application. And as Ashraf was saying, there were a couple of colleagues from here, from HSL, played a very important role, Jim, in tracks. And one of them was so good, was hired away. So I think in the translational level, in the research level, developing new models of engagement. Some of it is, again, we could be somewhat afraid of it and say, oh, you're going to change my job. I'm involved in this. Well, you can think of it as maybe making your job fit the changing nature of research and scholarly activities. Right? The engagement part, for lack of a better way of putting it, is sort of like working in teams. Becoming a true partner, if you will, in projects. And I want to emphasize, it's not just research projects, it's translational projects. And the education is very exciting, I think. With CHIP, I think we could work on workshops, modules, courses, delivery online. The boundary is ever receding, and we can do a lot of different educational activities. And I think that your experience in working with people in the trenches, their needs, their demands, their questions, those would drive the types of educational components. And we have to think outside. I tell my students, courses are an excuse. Don't think about just courses. You're learning all the time in all kinds of ways. Right? So, and they don't have to be told that actually. Most of them say, well, what are you telling me? I just took a Coursera course on data mining, I'm just doing 3 other things on these other areas, So people are learning in all kinds of ways. And we can collaborate in developing new modalities of education, and I think you do that already. I see your announcements, and I think we could certainly collaborate on that front as well. So, but if I could leave you with one practical action item moving forward, are opportunities, because I haven't had a chance to hear about your worlds and your questions. And understand the knowledge that you bring and concerns you have. I think that's very important. I think we could generate a lot of ideas from there. And it should be kind of opportunities that should be ongoing. If we could have a forum of some kind created, I would really encourage that.
Sounds like a good idea, and it's also it's sort of ironic to me that we would have the libraries, the big library presence that we have in the school, and yet this isn't taking place already, or hasn't already been taking place.
It
maybe
takes
we're
place,
just
I
looking
think,
to-
informally,
Yeah,
not in
informally.
a systematic way.
Groups that do that.
Yeah.
You've got a school
Yeah.
communications group. I think you need an informatics-based group perhaps, and you've got a space now to do that.
That came up in that first meeting that we had, I don't know what you call it.
That workshop meeting.
The meeting where we tried to get as many people involved in informatics as possible. And Canvas, yeah. But, I don't know if there was a list of names that came out of that, or what happened to that list of names, or another suggestion that was made in that group was that people would like to know about the research interests and projects of people across the campus who are involved in informatics.
Sure.
That's something that we ought to be able to do.
Sure.
That's a tangible project that we could take on, and once we've identified all those people, then pulling them together
Right.
for interchange is a lot easier than, saying, all right, everybody out there who's interested in that informatics, raise your hand. Just seems like something we ought to be able to do to help. And the other ideas, I'm really excited to hear that you'd like people from our staff to be on your research teams, because we would like that. And some of the things, and a chance to tell what we know that we think would be useful to you. Because many of us have got years of experience with real users of information, and in different settings.
Well,
We could be a good place to test.
Well, I mean, I think I shared this story with a couple of colleagues when we had Larissa's orientation, or, we had a small gathering for her to be sort of introduced to your colleagues. When I started in my field, you told your war stories of my first conference I went to as an assistant professor was the Medical Library Association MLA conference. It was amazing. It's huge. You know, the complexity of problems and projects. I still remember you probably, some of you know the Visible Human Project. You remember the Visible Human Project. There was a presentation by the PI, the investigator. I think he was from Michigan. And I was, you know, amazed. I think it's probably, it hasn't grown. If not, it if not increased, but at least remained that same size. That's the type of energy, the excitement, the types of different types of projects that we could potentially engage. I think, you know, with colleagues here and other places in the library system here. And I would like to have a possible platform to foster, and I think without becoming too grand and ambitious about, at this point, things we could be doing, we start with a small sort of a forum and have people come to talk and dialogue and share, and then with technology we can bring in people with minimal cost occasionally to present to us and share things with us.
We got a couple of questions, people had hands up earlier, just want to make sure we hear those questions and comments while we're here. So I know there was one over that side of the room earlier.
Well, I had a question just kind of, because I know you were asking about projects. Is there anything specifically to kind of reduce the digital divide that exists? You know, because a lot of times we think about accessing informatics and all this, but how about being able to get this to be accessible to those people that lack the technology or lack, you know, the knowledge of it? Is there any projects that you guys are involved in with dealing with that kind of?
I think a lot of ones that do outreach, like I mentioned one for breast cancer for African Americans, so you're thinking about the audience that you're targeting, and you take into account educational level, what kind of devices they have, and things like that. So certainly, if that's part of your project, you're definitely dealing with that. And a lot of times you might come and ask someone like you guys for advice on that. Like we're trying to figure out what's the literacy level of this population or something like that.
One area that I'm thinking about as we talk about these things for showcasing informatics research and connecting students with projects, PhD or masters, and programs around informatics is the Research Hub initiative that's going on in the library right now that's supposed to launch in the fall. That's a perfect fit in my mind with what we're already doing.
Yeah, if you had brought that up, I was going to bring it up because I was just thinking, you know, from our meeting this morning, talking about the physical space for that research. We're creating this research hub concept to connect the libraries together. And each of them is going to have a, you know, sort of a different emphasis, and in my mind at least, others as well. I've been thinking of that research hub and the connection with CHIP as being something that could make our research hub really powerful and different.
Jim, without, you know, hijacking the meeting for those who already know what the research hub is, could you take just a minute and tell me what's going to be, or tell those of us who might not know, or is that?
Barry, would you like, you're on the
I don't want to
Barry would
hijack the
probably
meeting
explain
because
it better than I could.
with nodding of heads, I feel like most people might know what this is, but.
So it's an initiative across the libraries. There will be 3 engagement sites, one at Davis, one at HSL, and one at the Kingdom Sciences Library, as initial outposts for the hub. The idea is to showcase existing library services, as well as develop new services, particularly in the areas of data analysis, visualization, informatics, digital humanities, to target researchers, particularly as an audience. We've been very involved with educational programs, but to really showcase our services to support research on campus. And some major renovations, particularly going on in Davis and to some extent at HSL, to bring in new technologies. We're skilling up in areas like visualization to eventually be able to support those sorts of services. And we're also seeking partnerships. So we're talking to Tracks, we hope to talk with CHIP, in the health sciences library in particular, about partnering, having partner potentially offered services through the libraries. Odom is going to be a partner in data, so it's sort of a large initiative to support physically and through virtual interactions, research at UNC.
Yeah, so it'll be physical space, technology, programs, and services, all sort of growing out of an idea that came from the life sciences team of supporting research through the whole research life cycle, from the idea to the curation of the output of research at the far end. But maybe in a broken nutshell, it's good.
So I think I interrupted you earlier, you wanted to comment.
Oh, I wanted to kind of clarify, with you, Ms. Javed. You have a seminar series,
We do.
and you're seeing a forum in addition to
Yes.
that, and maybe the forum focusing more on the interaction and generating just more discussion. And,
At the campus level. The seminar series is really a course on that we invite outside speakers to speak on various research and industrial topics, and that's run with Duke and some other collaborators. Actually, now we're collaborating with ECU as well as NC Central. But the forum I have in mind is more local, about UNC Chapel Hill, and it's the information experts and, if you will, a gathering of knowledge workers, and keeping a little bit informal structure to it. The seminar series is very much one-to-many, and there's a little bit of time at the end of those seminars to have a discussion. What I have in mind is a bit more loose. You talk for maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and you don't have to really prepare a solid presentation. You bring some idea to the fore, and you have a discussion, and you generate new ideas from it. Like the research hub, I would suspect only a small percentage of researchers probably still know about it because it's an early idea. But I can tell you, just sample of one, this would be very popular on campus. Most faculty members, at least if you were to do a survey, would say, I'd love it. Let's engage in it, because I think it goes in that engagement dimension for me, where you are becoming, you're taking services to the fore, and you're saying, we're going to also invent new services if you like. We're going to be working with you, I think that's exciting. I mean, having a forum where you can even test out some of those services, ideas. Think of this as a way to do small group, case studies with a group of researchers. I can tell you, the one we had in IU, I forget the librarian we had who went to Canada, who used to do our digital library.
Oh,
Jen Riley.
Jen Riley.
yes.
Jen used to run that at IU,
Yeah.
that session for us.
Yeah.
And it was really useful. If something like that could be realistically created, it would be great.
Okay.
Well, as far as kind of reminding me to make sure the CHIP seminar series that was broadcast, because you guys want to know about projects that are going on, not just ones that are here, but you can pick and select and say, I want to hear about this thing from, Harvard University is being broadcast here. If you know about it, you can easily just watch your replay.
Right.
They record those.
It's an opportunity for you guys to learn about more informatics.
Well, I've promoted that and gone to a number of those seminars and let other people know, when they're happening right here in the library.
Yeah, and we would welcome you all and anyone else you can think of to share it with, to attend those. They're not that well attended at this site, so we could definitely grow that.
We may have a bigger area. research hub.
Yeah, that'd be great if we needed a bigger room.
Well, when everybody comes, you know, we'll need a bigger room. All right, well, I think I've kept you all here long enough, or maybe we've kept ourselves, I hope. But again, thanks to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.